guys, boxing gossip here. One question that I've been asked a lot actually is which card I'm going to be watching on Saturday night. Will I be watching the McHenry card on Channel 5, headlined by Eubank Jr. with Nick Blackwell on, as the opponent and Hughie Fury on the undercard, or will I be watching the Kell Brook card? And I'm going to say I will definitely be watching the Channel 5 card. I actually think Eubank Blackwell is quite an intriguing fight, and more than that, more than just being an intriguing and tough fight and competitive fight, I actually think it's got the potential to be a real entertaining fight. You know, Kell Brook versus Kevin Bizier, with Kevin Bizier being a largely, I guess you could say, unheralded or unknown type operator, it's kind of hard to get as excited about him, as an opponent. It's also hard to sort of buy into the fact as to whether it's going to be a real entertaining scrap. So, remarkably, I'm not going to be watching the Kell Brook fight, and that's a quite stark turn of events. I mean, I remember when Carl Froch was retiring, so I'm doing a Frank Warren now, calling him Carl Froch. I remember when Froch was retiring, there was a big talk about Kell Brook going on to be the main star of British boxing, and Kell Brook going on to be the main pay-per-view carrier and the main matchroom fighter. But right now for me that has gone. I mean, since the Sean Porter fight, and we all remember that fight, it's been injury after injury after injury. Frankie Gavin off the Jojo Dan, and I think it is fair to say that Kevin Bizier is a new low. I mean, this is a guy who has actually lost not once, but actually lost twice to Jojo Dan. I know both of those were competitive matchups, split decisions. I know he dropped down, and they were good fights, but nevertheless that doesn't always bode too well in terms of hyping up a fight of this nature. So so basically I'm cutting it's a long-winded way of saying I am going to be watching the Chris Eubank fight, so I won't be watching Sky Live. But for me, the fight that I'm actually annoyed to miss isn't actually Kell Brook versus Bizier. I'm sure I'll cover that in a separate video in the lead up to the fight. But the fight that I actually want to see is Dave Allen versus Richard Towers, which I actually think is a really good domestic heavyweight scrap. I believe it's a British title eliminator, and at present that's the right sort of level for these two guys. Richard Towers, I guess, is a well-known guy, trained with Adam Booth. He's been in some more high-profile fights, although he's been very inactive of late. He's perhaps best known for being knocked out by Lucas Brown. At that time, that looked like a devastating loss. Since then, obviously, Brown's gone on to bigger and better things. He's holding a version of the heavyweight championship of the world, having knocked out Ruslan Jagayev, and you'd have to say that's a very impressive win for Lucas Brown. But nevertheless, Richard Towers has mixed it at that sort of level, and although he came up short, that's some big fight experience, and Lucas Brown is certainly by far the best opponent that either of the two have faced. Dave Allen, he's a lot earlier in his career. I think he's had half the amount of fights Richard Towers has had. He's a lot younger guy. I think he's like 23, 24. I became introduced to Dave Allen initially via IFL TV when they covered one or two of his early fights. I've then seen numerous interviews with Dave Allen on the Bay Lorick TV channel. I was actually lucky enough to speak to Dave Allen one evening when Ingram actually had me on the Bay Lorick channel, which was much appreciated, and I was able to speak to Dave. He seems like a really nice guy. And it's an interesting fight, actually, this. Two guys, as I say, who have sparred together, who are probably at a sort of similar level. Towers, I guess, is the bigger name. Towers has got the more experience. He's been in the bigger fights, but he's got that bad knockout loss in his career. Dave Allen, he's a guy, you kind of get the sense that his previous performances have been somewhat underwhelming. Possibly due to the fact that he hasn't had the best discipline outside of the ring, that he hasn't kept himself in tip-top condition, and I understand for this fight that he's got himself into excellent shape, and he's really in a position where he can put out a career best performance. I know Dave Allen dropped a draw early on in his career, but he's gradually started to step up the level of opposition. His last opponent, I think Fabrice Aurieng or something of that nature, was certainly the best opponent he'd been in with. What I would say is that fight was very, very close. He won that by 1 point or so, if I recall correctly. So, it'd be interesting to see how Dave Allen copes with the step up in level to Richard Towers. It'll be interesting to see how Richard Towers deals with long-term inactivity. He's been out of the ring for a long time. I think he had one comeback fight at York Hall against an unknown journeyman type opponent. So this is his first real test since the Lucas Brown fight, and it'll be interesting to see what sort of shape both guys turn up in. Dave Allen, you kind of get the impression the momentum may be more with him. He's been active, he's in excellent condition, he's been sparring with Hellenius recently. We know previously he sparred with Tyson Fury, Spilker, Klitschko, Anthony Joshua, etc. So, you certainly kind of get the impression that momentum is very much on David Allen's side. Whereas with Richard Towers, as I say, he's an older guy, he's in his mid to late 30s, and he's been inactive. I think Richard Towers is certainly the bigger man. I haven't seen them next to each other, but just looking at them from a distance, Richard Towers appears to be the taller, rangier individual, and I suppose his method is going to be to try and box behind the jab, establish the distance, establish the range, and stop landing with scoring punches on Dave Allen via the jab. Dave Allen looks to be a capable boxer from the outside. He's got some sort of amateur pedigree, so I imagine he's going to try to mix it up with Richard Towers, but eventually is going to want to adopt the technique that Lucas Brown adopted when he was facing Richard Towers, which was to try and close the gap, try and close the range, walk him down, and see what happens up close. And with Richard Towers hurt so badly in that fight against Lucas Brown, Dave Allen may be fancying his chances in this matchup by knockout. I know Richard Towers, there's going to be real questions about his durability and his ability to take a punch after that Lucas Brown fight. Having said that, Lucas Brown is clearly a very, very big puncher at a relatively high level. The stoppage of Chigayev showed that. He stopped Chigayev more convincingly than I've seen any heavyweight deal with Chigayev, actually, in terms of the actual knockout. And having what's bits and bobs of Dave Allen, I don't think that Dave Allen at this stage appears to carry quite the same punching power as I've seen from Lucas Brown. So whether Dave Allen will be able to hurt Richard Towers the same way Lucas Brown was able to is at this point an unknown conundrum. It's an interesting fight. I could see it breaking down in many different ways. Neither winner would surprise me. For me, this is the epitome of 50-50 fight. You've got sort of young versus old. It's kind of got a sort of crossroads feel to it, and the winner of this is obviously going to go on for a British title fight. If Anthony Joshua were to lose against Charles Martin, he would be a very possible opponent, so it'd be a very big matchup. The winner of this could maybe fight a Derek Chisora or a David Price or a Dillian White or a Hughie Fury and really start to propel their career in an upward trajectory. So interesting fight. It could break down in any number of ways. I am going to pick Dave Allen to win this fight, actually. I think Richard's inactivity and age as a combination is a negative, and I know he's being trained by Adam Booth, who's a very well respected trainer, but for me Adam Booth is somebody who is best at training fighters offensively, and I think Richard Towers maybe needs to work more on the defensive side of his game than the pure offense side of his game. I think Dave Allen, although he's the shorter guy, will probably be able to mix it up adequately from the outside. And I just suspect, having watched footage of both, that Dave Allen's going to be able to be the stronger fighter up close. And with Richard Towers being hurt in fights before, and I'm not just talking about the Lucas Brown fight. I remember the Gregory Tony fight from some time ago. I just think that the new, fit, motivated Dave Allen may have the ability to get Richard Towers out of there. So I actually like Dave Allen in this fight. I imagine Richard Towers is the favourite. He's the bigger guy, he's the bigger name, he's more experienced, he's fought at a higher level. But I think Dave Allen can pull the upset here. I think that he is a guy with talent and potential. So could be an interesting fight. As I say, it's certainly a competitive matchup which should be applauded much more so than the main event, and it's one that I look forward to watching even if I'm not able to watch it live. But let me know your thoughts on this fight. Is it a good fight? How do you see it going? Who do you see winning? Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks everyone.